Can you teach self-protection without live experience of bad guys? Who's kicking off on this one then?
So, okay, I think you can, but I think it's useful to have had some shit go on in your life. So, no, I mean, not lots of bad shit, because if you get into trouble all the time, obviously you're not a good person. Yeah.
Well, the chances are you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Very good, yeah.
I mean, my argument for this was always not everyone in the army teaching the new people in the army to fight have had direct experience.
No.
There will be a gap. And if you're saying you can't transmit any skills, then you say the army is ineffectual, which obviously it isn't, because when they go into action, there is.
Well, I had this argument donkeys years ago with somebody who can't be named anymore about this whole theory and practice thing. And again, I managed to change his mind on that, and it is the whole thing about somebody has some live experience. They teach you things based on that live experience. So you go to them because they've got the credibility of knowing what they're talking about. You study everything they have to say, you then take it back to your club or your dojo or whatever, and you teach verbatim what they taught you. It's the same skills, it's the same information, but suddenly now, because you've not had first-hand experience of it with the bad guys, none of it is valid anymore. How can you teach that if you've never had to face it? It's the same fucking lesson. The guy taught me this, I'm teaching you this, but yeah, I didn't face that situation. Now, there's a difference between knowing how you'd respond in those circumstances,
Yeah.
but I think there's a difference in, even with somebody with first-hand experience, is not going to teach you how you would respond to that situation.
And you may end up being a better teacher than they are. And you might be able to work out the nuances and be able to translate it better to the students than they did.
Quite possibly.
So, yeah, it could be that you do it even better than they did, seeing as you've got that information.
I think it still comes down to honesty rather than the information. Don't go out there and pretend you're a roughly dusty street fighter.
If you're not.
And I would also say, don't pretend that you know how to teach people how bad guys react if you haven't got a bad guy to use as an hooky.
Yeah.
I think this is going back to something Tommy said, and it's perfectly true. It's no use going to train with Nigel in the dojo, who's a chartered accountant or a banker who's going to swear at you a bit and shout and think you're getting the same triggers that you're going to get from a bad guy, and teach you anything useful in the way of facing your fears, learning how to respond, how to read the signs.
I think, as you were just saying, Brian, there's different types of bad guy. Not everyone is.
So yeah, the bad guys that I've experienced in my life would be different to. Yeah.
Well, it's not always about the street fight, is it?
No.
No, exactly. Especially when you start looking at, I mean, women and men have different problems.
Yeah.
And different bad guys. It's not all about someone coming up and chatting fuck you in your face, spreading their arms and then trying to lump you with a big hook.
It's
not every bad guy does that.
A generalisation, because everybody looks like that these days, but it's the classic tattooed fuckwit outside the pub, as opposed to the man you've been married to for 10 years in your kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different sort of bad guy doing an entirely different sort of thing with a different approach. You know, and have you got to have first-hand experience of every type of violence?
You literally can't.
Psychological, physical.
I mean, it's like a lot of the stuff that's generally done now comes from bouncing.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Thompson sort of led the way with all that, and it's really great. But a lot of it is like, well, you can't back off.
No, because it's your job.
Yeah. Whereas most people can. Or you might not be able, because you're a woman in the house with your...
Trapped in the bastard kitchen.
Trapped in the bastard kitchen. Brian guarding the door.
Yeah, so you're not getting out.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you can't have experienced every type of violence.
Well, if you have, then you've got something really wrong with your lifestyle choices.
Yeah, and you're probably dead.
Yeah.
So there needs to be, if you're teaching, so evidence-based then, isn't it, or researched,
Yeah.
I think the important thing is what you said is just to be honest about what you're teaching. So
what you're teaching, and
this is from research.
Yeah.
It's not first-hand experience.
at the basis of what you're teaching it from. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But yeah, people have a very narrow focus, or some people, the people who make the statement of you have to face bad guys, have a very narrow focus of what self-protection and violence is.
Yeah.
In my experience,
Yeah.
I'm sure not everybody does, but the majority of the ones you see shouting the loudest about it have a very narrow focus.
Yeah, I think that's right.